This is the Pro Stealth saddle. In this video, I'm gonna go into some detail as to why you might want to consider this saddle and what this saddle will do for you, what it won't do for you, and how you can put the saddle on your bike and get it set up well. This Pro Stealth is a triangular shaped seat, which is more suitable for more aggressive forms of riding. It's also got quite a long waist, so this waist part on a saddle is where the saddle transitions from the narrow part of the nose to the wider part of the back. And you can see the kind of the level of flare on this saddle is maybe like somewhat intermediate. It doesn't flare out super quick. In that case, it's got a lot of usable real estate here on the saddle. You can see that the shoulder, which is the other part of this waist feature, the edge is slightly curved. On a saddle with a curved edge, if you think about your pelvis, how that works on the saddle, how that integrates, the saddle itself is going to be set on a bike where the pelvis is going to be wanting to roll forward and be supported in that slightly forward-leaning posture. Now, the reason the saddle works well is because it facilitates your pelvis's ability to roll forward, which you need to do in your pelvis in order to generate torque from your legs. So this is the thing. Imagine this saddle weighed 30 kilograms and I'm going to bend over and pick it up. I wouldn't just bend over with my upper body to pick it up. I would put my bum back a little bit, use my whole leg to push the floor as I lifted the heavy saddle up. You could liken it to like a heavy rock or what have you. On the bike, it's the same. You want to be able to get your bum far enough back from the bottom bracket to generate tension in your hips because it's the strongest part of your body. And then you lean forward onto the waist of this saddle. We've got that curve, we've got that ability for that saddle to support the pelvis in a forward roll position. This is why I really like the use of the Pro Stealth in, for instance, some common bikes like a Canyon Road, Colnago V5RS, or it might be Cannondale Super 6 Evo, bikes like that, bikes that are team-orientated race bikes or like aero-orientated, sort of fast, more aggressive bikes. Now, I find it to be quite supportive on riders more like myself. So to just give you some relative idea, like I probably weigh in like the mid 80 kilograms. I'm like about 173, 174 centimeters tall, especially if you put the camera lower and point it up the way, I look a little bit taller as well. There you go. I'm joking, you can put the camera back up. If you think about the power to weight ratio, when I've got a threshold of approximately 300 watts, I'm going to be sitting quite heavy on a saddle. So the reason that I like this saddle for slightly bigger guys who are mobile enough to go into more of an aggressive position on their bike, or maybe more intermediate positions where you're not quite full-blown aero, but you're not quite full-blown endurance, this saddle's got quite a lot of surface area. So you see the nose isn't super narrow, it's not super wide either, but it's almost like there's a lot of real estate, there's a lot of usable space on the saddle. If we take the first couple of centimeters away from the nose, and we stop usually on a saddle when we kind of get much further past this 80mm wide part of the saddle, we look at the kind of the space on the waist of this saddle, it is very, very supportive. Now the downside of that to riders that are slightly lighter, it's maybe slightly more powerful and with slightly more aggressive setups, riders maybe with tighter hamstrings that struggle to roll forwards, well, this saddle, the riders themselves that are riding it would feel like the nose is maybe quite wide, so buying it with caution, or at least trying it first if you're one of those guys. And the other thing about it is you can see the saddle's shoulder is quite curved, but if we were going to compare it maybe to the likes of a Selle Italia Boost or something with a bit more of a flare, you might find that that saddle feels easier to lean forward with. And what you can see from the Selle Italia saddle is you've got this curvature here. So the waist on this saddle starts a bit later and it finishes a bit sooner. You can see how it would want to roll you forwards more because of the curvature along here. I find customers who tell me that, yes, I quite like this saddle, but I feel when I roll forwards on it, there's maybe a couple of hot spots either side the top of my leg, or maybe it feels like it's digging in or it's a bit square, then I maybe move them on to Selle Italia Boost and I feel that they can roll forward just that little bit more comfortably. But when I try the Selle Italia Boost, personally, again, slightly bigger guy, slightly less power to weight ratio, but still quite flexible and still riding quite an aggressive position, I find that the curvature along the waist of this saddle, these two sides along the pressure relief channel almost feel like ridges that dig in to either side the top of my leg. Basically, there's too much pressure along these ridges, so I just get sore, I can't lean forward anymore, I can't relax into my seat, I start pushing the bars, I start compensating compensating elsewhere basically because the saddle makes me uncomfortable. And then it's not quite as simple as going, well, I'll try the wider saddle because the wider saddle stops me getting far enough back on the saddle to generate tension in my hips effectively. This is the thing, it's never just as simple as trying a wider version if you're not comfortable on a certain seat, but that's maybe a topic for another video. One slightly nice thing about the Pro Stealth it has over the Cell Italia, there's these two kind of screw-ins here so you can like attach like a GoPro mount. Frames and Gear, for instance, they make like a GoPro mount so you could like attach like a GoPro or an Insta360 native on the back of the seat, which actually I find is quite handy because I've used that before on some of my rides. Cell Italia does not have such a feature. So these two saddles, both similar ideas, both you would buy if you have an aggressive style racing bike. Pro Stealth, I would say it is squidgy, higher surface area, more suitable for heavier riders. The Cell Italia Boost, I would say sleeker, more aggressive, suitable more for more traditional cyclist builds than this Pro Stealth. And there you go, similar weight, similar style, both look all right, both cost about the same. That's my take. It's my take.